So, what is a parallel relationship, and how does this often affect dismissive avoidant attachment styles and possibly their partner? So, first and foremost, you can think of a parallel relationship as literally representing two lines that are running in parallel. They're not really crossing over into interdependent territory. There isn't this giving and receiving of love, of needs being met in a relationship. Now, I often share with people that our needs in a relationship from our partner are essentially the lifeblood of the relationship. Similarly to how you, as a single individual organism, need things like oxygen and water in order to survive. And that sort of forms that lifeblood as an expression for you. Well, the exchange of needs in a relationship often forms the lifeblood of a relationship. I mean, one of the biggest reasons relationships fail is because individuals don't know what they need from a relationship, so they can't express it to their partner, nor does their partner really know what they need? And thus they can't express it to the other person. And so when we have these parallel relationships, you can imagine it representing these two lines driving in parallel, and there's very minimal crossover or interception, which is part of what we need in order for a relationship to sustain itself and to be nourished, right? Just like water or air. And also, water or air nourishing the individual, right? The needs nourishing the relationship. And also, there's really little room for emotional intimacy, which means that it's going to be difficult for the relationship to actually last. Now, we could have a whole separate conversation right in this moment all about needs and how to meet each other's needs and understand needs. I'm not going to get into that in this video. If you want to do a deep dive, you can check out a course I have for free for 7 days all about needs. Knowing your needs, knowing your partner's needs, and understanding how to communicate about needs. So I will put that link for free down below. And in terms of parallel relationships overall, one of the things that you need to understand first and foremost is that one partner in a parallel relationship will almost always be a dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidants are the attachment style of hyper independence or counter dependency. And this is part of because the way that love and relationships were modeled to them was that there was also minimal intersect, overlap, or interdependency. There wasn't really this like giving and receiving happening all the time. There wasn't this relying on other people, vulnerability, needs understanding between two people in a relationship. So we had a dismissive avoidant grow up in a household where, they didn't really have the ability to get their needs met and to see healthy interdependency fostered in the dynamic of their upbringing. And so they take that subconscious programming and they project that back out onto the other relationships in their life. So we essentially have a parallel relationship representing two ships passing in the night. There's really this strong underlying factor of like lack of intimacy, lack of connection, lack of emotional availability, lack of vulnerability, lack of exchange. So there's, five main pieces there that tend to be missing. Now, what you'll often see is that with a parallel relationship, the most common coupling that's most likely to be found in this relationship pattern is a dismissive avoidant with a person who has a secondary dismissive avoidant attachment style. Why is this? Well, number one, two dismissive avoidants really don't end up lasting in a relationship together. We can have somebody who's like primarily dismissive avoidant with somebody who's got a secondary DA style, but two very strong dismissive avoidants, nobody's making the first move. The relationship can't really pick up steam and momentum. So we'll sometimes see these people kind of start dating if they're friends or seeing each other. But very quickly in the dating stage, these relationships tend to fail unless, of course, somebody is working on becoming securely attached, or unless somebody, of course, has a primary attachment style that's stronger than their secondary DA style, right? So we'll see like somebody who's mostly secure with a secondary dismissive avoidant style or things of that nature. So this is where we're going to see these relationship connections. What I most often see will be, when I said the primary is a DA and secondary, and the second partner has a secondary DA style. Oftentimes they're either like partially secure and DA, partially FA and DA. And we're very unlikely to see somebody have a primary AP and a secondary DA. That if that's the case, they're usually just an FA attachment style and don't realize it. So we'll usually see these types of dynamics. And what will end up taking place in these relationships is that because both parties have this avoidant side, it's like there's just enough to kind of maintain some kind of connection, but that relationship quickly fizzles out after the honeymoon stage and goes into this relationship of comfort, of convenience, of not really sparking that intimacy or growth together in a relationship, not really having those vulnerable, open conversations. And sometimes both parties are just too afraid of conflict or are just too afraid of leaving the relationship and really drive a lot of security and comfort from their partner. So sometimes these relationships can go on for quite some time, but there's no real like chemistry, connection, like overlap happening. And instead, what we're usually seeing is this just like almost friendship with, at times like this slightly romantic context. And of course, this tends to get progressively more and more like two ships passing in the night as time goes on throughout the relationship. So I've actually seen in my practice couples who are in this relationship for very long periods of time romantically and just felt really, really stuck in this dynamic. So it is quite common for this to take place. Now, what can you do if you feel like you are in a parallel relationship? Well, he'll talk to you about this. But I do want to let you know that if you are struggling with this and you're looking to repair a relationship, is covered in terms of how we should be addressing repairing a relationship and the different types of patterns we'll have to recondition and how to look at primary and secondary trigger patterns, all that kind of stuff. We have a course if you're struggling and if your relationship's on the rocks that you can check out for free for 7 days called How to Repair Any Relationship. I will put that link below. And you can check it out for free for 7 days if I didn't say that already. So when it comes to how to actually move the needle on a parallel relationship, one of the first things is that somebody has to get comfortable with vulnerability. If both of you are just sort of sitting in the stage where one person's not really making a move and the other person's really avoiding vulnerability and deep connection, then we're going to just have these two parallel lines driving side by side instead of this interdependency, this overlap, this connection, this exchange of giving and receiving. And so if this sounds like you have to work on vulnerability. You have to work on reconditioning the vulnerability. Second thing, you have to open up about your needs. Whatever you need and whatever you're looking for, whatever made you land on this video, you have to be able to express these things. You have to talk about them. If you're going to commit to a relationship has such a big impact on your happiness, your well-being, your lifestyle. Like we rub off on each other, whoever we're with. And so you have to be able to say, these are my needs. I'm going to see them through. I'm going to set them as standards in the relationships, and I'm going to communicate about these things until I get them met. Number three, you want to actually have time that you set aside that's intentional for intimacy. It doesn't have to be like sexual intimacy. It can be emotional intimacy to start, like just opening up, sharing little things about your day. So much of what actually creates more intimacy between people at just a really foundational baseline level is sharing specifics. Imagine, for example, that I'm dating somebody or let's just say it's my husband and he comes home and I'm like, "How was your day?" And he says, "Oh, it was good." Or instead I say, "Hey, how was your day?" And he said, "Oh, this specific thing happened at 11 o'clock in this meeting I was in. And then later in the day, I had this conversation with this coworker." And then, and if he's sharing all these specific things, I feel more intimately tied to his reality. I feel more close. I feel like I understand the little details of things. So even just starting by sharing more specific things, opening up more, asking more specific, deeper questions in that time you have set aside to create this intimacy and closeness, these are great starts to build momentum. They don't have to be conflict oriented or this really big deal, but this is often like the starting point for building a foundation that has a little more parallel. And then making sure you're also asking your partner what they need, giving into their needs, pouring into them as well, and making sure that this exchange happens and not be afraid to challenge your partner and say, "Look, this is not great where we are. Like, let's improve. Let's work on this together." And not be afraid to have that openness, that vulnerability. All of these things lay the foundation for more intimacy, more closeness in relationships, and generally in parallel relationships, because it can even feel scary for people in this relationship dynamic to even move into sexual or physical intimacy. Generally, the first place to start is around mental intimacy and emotional intimacy. So intellectual, like sharing opinions, having a debate, ideas, things that sort of like have both support and challenge in them, because that's where the sort of parameter of optimal growth lies. So like, things like a healthy debate from a mental space, sharing of feelings, all those specific things we were just talking about. about your day and different dynamics like that emotionally, and then slowly bridging into more physical affection, and then slowly bridging into more sexual connection and intimacy in that department tends to be sort of the last step when I've seen couples who have been historically in these types of relationships for long periods of time. So I have some exciting news, which is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime membership sale to the Personal Development School, which means you get access to literally everything at PDS for your entire rest of your life. Essentially, that entails all of our different courses you have lifetime access to. I do 4 live webinars a week, every single week. You can access them ongoing, and you get access to all of our daily community events. So I'd love to see you on the other side, and you can access it by using the link in the description box below. So there's so much more we could talk about in terms of this. Please let me know if you have more questions or comments down below specific to this topic, more you want to see about this. If this is you going through this, please share a little bit about what would help you, what tools are supportive for you. Again, you can check out those courses for free for 7 days using the link down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to this channel. I have daily videos here literally every single day, all about the subconscious mind, integrated attachment theory, which is the new attachment theory, your core wounds, your emotional patterns, healing, all these different dynamics. So if you don't want to miss any videos, I literally have a daily breakthrough video for you every single day to help you really improve your emotional literacy, your relationships, and really your personal life. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.